At the edge of a vast forest, where the trees grew tall and the wind whispered secrets through their leaves, there stood a village known as Elmsbridge. It was not a wealthy village, nor a famous one, but it was peaceful. The people of Elmsbridge lived simple lives, guided by tradition, routine, and one extraordinary belief, that a powerful wizard lived among them. His name was Margin the Great. No one knew where Margin had come from. Some said he appeared one foggy morning many years ago, walking out of the forest with a long staff in his hand and a robe covered in strange symbols. Others claimed he had always been there, simply unnoticed until the day he declared himself a wizard. What everyone agreed on was this: Margin looked like a wizard, spoke like a wizard, and carried himself like a wizard. That was enough. Margin lived in a crooked tower just outside the village. It leaned slightly to the left, as if tired of standing upright, and ivy crawled up its stone walls like curious fingers. At night, a faint light often glowed from its highest window. The villagers believed this was proof of magical experiments, though in truth it was only Margin reading by candlelight. Every morning, Margin walked through the marketplace at the center of Elmsbridge. He wore a long, shimmering robe, purple on some days, deep blue on others, and a wide belt from which hung small bottles filled with colored liquids. He tapped his staff against the ground as he walked, letting it echo dramatically between the stalls. "Good morning, great wizard," the baker would say nervously. Margin would nod slowly, his face serious. "May your bread rise as fate intends," he would reply. The butcher, the cloth seller, the farmers all greeted him with respect. Children followed him at a distance, whispering and giggling, daring each other to get closer. Parents pulled them back, warning them not to disturb the wizard. Yet despite all the awe and fear, there was one small problem. No one had ever seen Margin perform magic, not once. At first, the villagers assumed he was simply modest, or that true magic did not need to be shown. Later, they decided that his magic must be subtle, working behind the scenes. After all, the crops usually grew well, the river rarely flooded, and serious disasters were few. Surely that was because of Margin. Margin himself never confirmed or denied anything. When asked directly, he would smile mysteriously and say, "Magic reveals itself only when it must." In truth, Margin was not a wizard at all. He had no spells, no enchantments, no secret powers hidden within him. He had never studied at a magical academy, never learned ancient runes, never spoken to spirits or bent the laws of nature. What he did have was a powerful imagination, a sharp mind, and a deep understanding of people. Years ago, Margin had been a traveler with no home. He wandered from village to village, telling stories in exchange for food and shelter. One evening, exhausted and hungry, he arrived in Elmsbridge. To make himself seem important, and to avoid being chased away, he told the villagers he was a wizard. He never expected them to believe him so completely. At first it was meant to be temporary, just a night or two. But the villagers' reactions surprised him. They listened closely to every word he spoke. They watched every movement. They treated him with respect he had never known. So he stayed. Over time, the lie grew heavier. Each year made it harder to leave, harder to confess. Margin told himself he was not harming anyone.
He helped where he could, offering advice, settling arguments, calming fears. He used logic instead of magic, wisdom instead of spells.
And somehow it worked. But lies, no matter how carefully built, are fragile things. The moment they began to crack came on the day the visitors arrived. Elmsbridge was hosting a group of merchants from a distant city. The village chief, a proud man named Aldrich, wanted to impress them.
He spoke of Elmsbridge's prosperity, its peace, and most of all, its wizard. "A real wizard?" one merchant asked skeptically.
"A great one," Aldrich replied. "Margin the Great." The merchants exchanged glances. "We would very much like to see magic," one of them said. Aldrich agreed immediately. That evening, he sent a message to Margin, requesting a public demonstration. When Margin read the message, his hands trembled. This was it. The moment he had avoided for years. He paced his tower all night, whispering nonsense words, hoping ridiculously that something might happen. That magic might suddenly awaken within him. That the universe might take pity and grant him a miracle. Morning came, and nothing had changed. The village square filled with people as the sun reached its highest point. The merchant stood near the front, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Children climbed onto barrels and fences for a better view. Margin stepped forward, heart pounding.
He raised his staff just as he had seen wizards do in stories.
He spoke the first words that came to mind, words that sounded magical enough. Farfushi farfasha. Silence, no flash of light, no wind, no sound. A murmur spread through the crowd. Marjan swallowed and tried again, louder this time. Karkusha flafla. Still nothing. Someone laughed, then another. A small child's voice rang out, clear and innocent. Can you at least make your staff glow? Marjan looked at the staff in his hands. It was just wood, ordinary, worn wood. For the first time in years, he felt tired of pretending, tired of carrying a role that was never his. He lowered the staff. To be honest, he said quietly, I forgot how to do magic. The square fell silent. Then slowly, laughter erupted. Not cruel laughter, but surprised, relieved laughter. Some people shook their heads. Others wiped tears from their eyes. The village chief stared at Marjan, stunned. You mean, all this time? Marjan nodded. I was never a wizard. The merchants laughed the loudest. A wizard without magic, one of them said. That's a new one. Marjan expected anger. He expected rejection. He expected to be driven out of the village. Instead, something unexpected happened. An old woman stepped forward. You helped my son when he was afraid, she said. You listened, a farmer added. You settled our land dispute without a single spell. Another voice followed. Your stories kept us warm in winter. Marjan looked around, confused. Aldrich cleared his throat. You may not be a wizard, he said slowly, but you've been something else. That night, Marjan did not return to his tower. Instead, he sat in the marketplace, surrounded by villagers telling stories. Not magical ones, this time real ones. Stories of distant lands, foolish kings, brave children, and ordinary people who did extraordinary things. The children listened with wide eyes. The adults leaned closer. From that day on, Marjan became the village storyteller. The tower was left empty, its window dark for the first time in years, but Elmsbridge did not lose its magic. If anything, it gained something better. Marjan no longer wore shimmering robes. He dressed simply.
He laughed more. He slept better.
And sometimes, late at night, when the firelight flickered and the stars shone bright above the village, someone would swear they felt something magical in the air. Not spells, not enchantments. Just stories, shared hearts, and the quiet power of truth. And Marjan the Great Wizard no longer was finally exactly who he was meant to be.